Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar. That's, we try to open it for everybody. My name is Philip Edu. I'm here with Dr. Cassady Pitt, and we will be sharing with you some of the things that you have to think about when you are doing research. But most of the time, what we're going to do is we're going to have like Q&A where you ask us questions, and then we'll be happy to address them for you. So let's see. So I'll go ahead for Dr. Pitt to introduce herself, and then we can start the discussion.
Hi, I am Dr. Cassady Pitt. I am mostly qualitative research expert. I have several years experience doing dissertation consulting and dissertation coaching, in addition to assisting students with data analyses and how to determine how to answer the research questions quantitatively. I have published in peer-reviewed journals, and I have 3 under review right now as well, all using kind of higher level types of statistical analyses and methodologies. I have taught statistics courses both at the undergraduate level as well as the graduate level. I have also, I'm actually redesigning a course right now in statistics for undergraduates to make it more easier for them to understand stats from a more layman's terminology, where they can kind of grasp the concepts and the ideas a little bit more easily than you would find in a textbook. I also started my own YouTube channel about 3 years ago to assist students with running different types of analyses in SPSS. And I will be updating that soon to also have videos and Stata as well. I've also been a member of a qualitative methodology on doctoral dissertation committees. I've also worked on committees where I was not a methodologist, but could provide methodological support in other facets. I've also done peer-reviewed journals where I have assisted peers with different types of kind of suggestions on their methodology and whatnot. And I've presented on multiple methodological topics over the last 3 years. I've been providing methodological consultants for doctoral students for about 6 years now. So on that, I will hand it over to Philip.
Thank you, Dr. Pitt, for the introduction. Let me go to my slide. So I'm currently an independent methodology expert. So what I do is I provide methodology support to students. Let's say if they have issues with research questions, how to decide the methodology that they have to use, how to collect data, how to analyze and present the findings. I'll be happy to help them. And also I've authored and co-authored qualitative research books, and I will talk a little bit about it during our presentation or discussion. I've designed a lot of research method courses and also taught about 20 classes in the 20 classes. They are all doctoral and also master's level. And also I have chaired a couple of dissertation committees, and also I've done a lot of presentation, and you can find that when you go to YouTube, you search my name and you get access to all my presentation in terms of qualitative research and other things that are related to research. So I've been helping students for about 10 years. And I'm hoping that today I'll be able to share my experience with you and also address any questions that you have. Currently, I've set up or funded a center called Center for Research Method and Consulting. And this is their website. I just set it up. So the website, we are still developing it. So when you go there, you'll not get a lot of information, but when you come back maybe in 2 weeks or so, the website will be fully functioning. And so for this center, what I'm planning to do is to help students who are want to learn about research method, and also help researchers when they want to conduct their research. They can contact me and I will be happy to provide them all the information that they need. And also I will be organizing webinars and also online courses that will be helpful for people who want to learn about research, especially qualitative research. So watch out for a lot of information when you go to the website, maybe in about 2 weeks. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. It's not really a presentation per se, it's all about discussion. And we can ask us questions and then we'd be happy to address them for you. And you can even make a comment. If you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself. If you're having difficulty unmuting yourself, let me know. You can type in and I'll be happy to unmute you. And also you can type in any question that you want us to address and we'll be happy to help you address all of them for you. So this is, as I said, this is not a presentation per se, it's more of a discussion addressing any question, qualitative research, quantitative research. We are always, we are happy to help you and share our knowledge with you. And also as we wait for questions, we can go through a few information and maybe that will trigger some questions that you have. But anywhere you can type in and maybe stop us and ask us questions that we will be happy to address for you. Before we do a presentation, anybody have any question that we want us to address?
Can we unmute and ask?
Yes, you can. We'll be happy to address. We are here for you.
Thank you so much. I was typing, but I thought it would be quicker for me just to ask my question in this way. So, by the way, thank you so much for for hosting this. My name is Rose. I'm based in the Pacific, in Fiji. Mm-hmm. So I'm a master's student at the University of the South Pacific. I'm doing my studies part-time. And one of the things that we're faced with is the travel restriction. So initially when I designed my research, it's a qualitative research. I was hoping to go out into the field to do my data collection. Unfortunately, due to the travel restriction where I can't do that. So I've changed to do it by, using social media, but basically using the phone and, other social media platform to get in touch with the research participants in the country that I want to do my research in. So I just would like to appreciate some advice on, how we can do that, qualitative methods, but doing it remotely.
Yeah, so you are not alone. A lot of students, especially those who are doing a qualitative research, they have to find other ways of getting access to participants. And as you are, the same experience, difficult to travel and get access to them and have conversation face to face. So one option that students are using is using video conferencing, like Zoom to, interview participants. So that the benefit of using video conferencing is that you'll be able to see the person's face and you'll be able to see the person's reactions as you talk to the person. But the limitation is that because you are not meeting them physically, that's sometimes very difficult to establish that kind of trust and connection, right? So one option is to first meet participants maybe 2 weeks or 2 days before the main, and then introduce yourself, trying to establish that kind of connection and making sure that everything is set in terms of technology for you to be able to interview them. So that's another way of, building that connection. And also another way is to you should have like a gatekeeper, right? Somebody who might be located in that place to introduce you to them, right? So that, when they meet you online, they will be able to open and share their ideas with you. So that's one option. The second is, and sometimes because of internet access, sometimes it's very difficult for you to be able to use maybe Zoom and something like that. So you have to use maybe telephone. You just have to make sure that you try to build that kind of trust. As I said, have some conversation with them before the telephone main interview, so that you establish that connection with them, so that they'll be open and share the ideas with you. Another option that we may have to think about is, finding other ways of collecting data. You can collect data from your social media, right? There are a lot of Facebook groups that you can access their resource, their discussion. You can use Twitter. You can get a lot of information from Twitter. So there are also social media data that you can get access to. We call it nethnography, right? So by sometime you can have to join the group in the social media group, and then familiarize yourself with them, and then trying to collect data from them. That's another way. Another way is to think about existing data. There's a lot of resources there, a lot of researchers that have uploaded their data in the cloud that people can get access to it. So you can also find ways, maybe you can access existing data to use it to analyze and address your research question. So these are the few options. If you want more information, you can email me. I can send you some resources that will help you to think about alternative way of collecting data in this difficult time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Cassady, do you have anything to add, or any comments?
I want to kind of piggyback on your idea there, Philip, about existing data. I always tell students that sometimes if they can't do it qualitatively, especially with the pandemic, why not see if there's existing data sources where it can be done quantitatively. I know you kind of miss a little bit of the detailed information when you're not doing qualitative, but we're in a pandemic, and a dissertation is a done dissertation, right? So I always try to encourage students, like, it kind of depends on, I guess, on how long you want to be in the dissertation process. So, sometimes doing the quantitative way, and I understand, like, you might not understand statistics or what methodology to use, but that's why myself and Philip are doing this webinar, and they're going to continue to do webinars to assist students, kind of bridging the gap, especially, like I said, especially since we're in a pandemic and there's so much less access to people in kind of the interpersonal, where you're seeing them face to face, or even doing phone interviews are going to be difficult, even when you're trying to study from another country per se. If you want to study a different culture, it's going to get a little bit problematic, in this pandemic. And so again, I encourage students to try to find secondary data. If not, maybe switch their study to quantitative, and then, just getting assistance from myself or Dr. Du.
Okay. So thank you, Dr. Pitt, for additional information. I think Arena was suggesting that we should use a poll on using the Zoom poll to determine who is interested in qualitative or quantitative approach. Yeah, we could use that.
Yeah, I would say also add mixed methods in there, because
yes, and a mixed method. And I think we already got that information. When you are booking for the to be part of this webinar, we ask people, those who want to attend, whether they are doing a qualitative study or quantitative or mixed method. So we already have that information. We realize that most of our people who are interested in this presentation want us to talk more about mixed method studies, right? So we will be planning to maybe do another webinar about mixed method to help people. So that's thing that we might be considering. So Irina, thank you for your suggestions. We appreciate it. Any other question that you want to ask anybody?
There's a question in the chat box from Mark saying, I had once experienced a challenge conducting FGD. I asked for the community mobilizer to get only 10 people, but a maximum to 12. Apparently, as I and my colleague were in the middle of an interview, I kept seeing numbers increasing, and all they wanted to sign the payment form. Considering this, is there a very remote area I really had a problem?
If you can explain further about your question, that would be great. It looks like you are having issues with participants who wanted to be part of the study because of the payment. Is that what your concern is? Yes, so sometimes it happens in terms of the payment issue. You just have to, most of the time you have to, do a little bit of research in terms of when you want to use incentive to increase participation, right? Sometimes if the incentive is too attractive, people will just be interested in taking the money or the things that you want to give, and they are not really focusing on the interviews. So in this case, I think that maybe this is like next time, it's all about being flexible and learn from experience. This is a learning experience. Next time you have to make sure that the incentive is not overly attractive to participants to understand that they are not concerned about giving you rich information, but they are concerned about what you're going to get in monetary wise from the interview. So I think that this is sometimes it's an unexpected thing that happened. You just have to learn from it, and then next time we'll not repeat the same mistakes. I think that one thing that you have to do is that give the incentive that it should be balanced, in the sense that it's not causing them to be part of the study because they want to get something from you, but at the same time, you want to compensate the time that they have spent with you. So there's a kind of balancing act here, and we just have to learn from this experience, and then acknowledge it in your writing that this is what happened, so that future researchers will learn from it and then not repeat the same thing. So what you can do is that just at least select the 10 to 12 participants that you think they will provide you rich information, and then just tell the rest that you are sorry, you can't, they cannot be part of the study now, maybe another time. So that's the thing that you can let them know, right? And also, when you are advertising, don't emphasize more on what they're going to get in monetary wise. I think that will attract wrong people for the interview. Try to focus on emphasizing on the benefit of the study to them, right? So what is the practical benefit of the study to them? Maybe this study will help them to maybe understand the problem that they are facing, or this will help them to know more what is going on, or the solution for the problem that they are facing. So I think that emphasizing on the benefit of the study more when you are recruiting participants, instead of emphasizing on what you're going to get immediately in terms of monetary wise.
Okay, there's another question here. It says, good evening, I am Johnson MPhil. I hope I pronounced that correctly. First year student, and I want to do a standalone literature review, but I'm finding it difficult to get subtopics. Is there any way you can help me? I can take that question. That's essentially what they refer to as a meta-analysis. And I believe both myself and Dr. Adu do work with students on that. So we would happy to assist you in any way that we can regarding narrowing your topic a little bit more and trying to figure out maybe where there's gaps in literature.
Yes, I think that this is another thing that is very interesting. Normally, you do meta-analysis or systematic review if there is a lot of study done about a topic. Whenever you realize that there's a limited study done about a topic, there's a red signal to you that you shouldn't do systematic literature review because there's nothing to review. There's no information. You are searching and searching about it, unless maybe you want to change the topic and focus on something that a lot of researchers have done about it. Then you can do comprehensive literature review or meta-analysis. But if you realize that you are not getting any literature to review, systematically review, or do meta-analysis, it's a signal to you that you either have to change the topic or change the approach in terms of how you select or source your data, right? Maybe you have to collect your own data, right? And analyze and use it to address your research question that you have. So you have to, think about these two, either to change the topic or to change the data collection strategy.
Another way that I've seen articles too posted with meta-analysis, if you're going to be talking about maybe what the future directives of any given topic should be, but there's just not the data available, at this time. And that is something you could also move into either a study your own or just talk about maybe how there's limitations on collecting that type of data. There's a question here. If we signed up for this webinar, will we automatically be emailed or invited to the Mixed Methods webinar?
It's going to be difficult. I'm not sure, but we will try. But I think one thing that you can do is you can follow us on LinkedIn. Because when we want to set up any presentation or any webinar, we will announce it. So when you follow us, we will ask you to register, and then you can be part of it. But I cannot assure you that because you are part of this presentation or part of this webinar, we'll be sending you information. I'm not totally sure, but when you follow us on LinkedIn and maybe Twitter, we'll be able to provide you a link for you to register for the next one.
And we both have our individual websites set up where we both post about events. So you could look at, mine is higherpowerstats.com. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. And then there's also Dr. Adu's site, and we are both on each other's sites. So you can find by going under events under both of those sites, you can find out when the webinars are, so on and so forth. Yep, there's a question here for you, Philip. It says, yes. When I participated in a qualitative study, the interviewer recorded me with my video. You mentioned that having video on. Can you add observation on Zoom as a part of your qualitative study?
Yes, so you could, I think somebody has to mute him or herself. Okay, so I think that one thing that you have to think about is this is the mistake people do. I'm going to interview participants at the same time do observation. It's impossible, right? The observation that you're going to do during the interview is just to help you to have a good conversation with participants. You are not observing because you want to find out whether the participant is nervous saying it. You are looking at the person because sometimes non-verbal responses or the non-verbal behavior will help you to see how the communication is going on, right? So if you say that I'm going to do interview and also do observation at the same time, it's going to be too much work for you. Focus on interview, listen to the person talking. Try to make sure that the person, person understand that you are listening, right? Create an environment that, you don't want participants to feel like you are just there to collect information. You have to be able to listen and show empathy, right? Doing all these things, adding observation to it and trying to take note about the person reaction, facial reaction, you are wasting time. Focus on the communication. If you want to do observation, do it separately. You can also book an appointment with the person to spend time with the person, do observation instead of doing two things at the same time. We observe and have communication so that it will help the flow of conversation. You are not doing it to document participant reaction to your questions and then analyzing it as an observation data. It's a waste of time. Focus on the communication, focus on listening, focus on having a good conversation with participants so that they feel like they are not in an interrogatory environment. They feel like you have created a conducive environment for you to have a very good conversation, a nice conversation. After they finish the interview, they feel like they have benefited from it, not like they are drained, right? So you always have to focus on one thing. When you're doing interview, focus on having conversation with participants and use nonverbal behavior as a way of helping you to have a good conversation with participants. Somebody's hand is up. Philip, yes, you can talk if you want to talk.
Yeah, hello, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Philip, my
please,
namesake.
yeah. My question is with reference and like citing specifically. I read from one of your presentations that you only cite when you are quoting a person directly. But I want to ask, what if I've read through the person's article, I found the data or through the conclusion about what the person drawn, I found a specific let's say information I want to add up to my research. What about that one? Summarizing or trying to summarize what I have found out about a person. Should I quote the person or it's in my own words?
Yeah, so you're talking about paraphrasing, right?
Yeah.
So because it's somebody's idea and you are paraphrasing, you have to cite the person, not quoting, right? So let's say you read something about an issue and then you are reporting or saying it in a different way, right? Without taking word for word, you have to cite so that because the information is not yours, right? You have taken information, you have digested the information and you're writing in your own words, but the information is not yours, so you have to cite. Another way also is quoting, right? So you can quote the place that you collected information, but you have to provide the page number, right? So that people will know the location of that information. But when you paraphrase, you just cite, you don't write the page number, right? So that's the difference.
Okay. And please, with referencing, assuming I read an article and the person already referenced someone, and I have taken that idea. I want to quote whatever that I saw over there. Am I going to quote the current person whom article I'm reading, or the already cited person?
Yeah, so there are there are a number of ways you can do it, right? The first option, if the person, let's say you are reading an article, right, and the person writing it have quoted somebody, right, and then you want to use the quote, you have to go back to the original article and you quote and then write the page number and other things, right? But if you are just paraphrasing, you can cite the current article, right? I don't know whether Dr. Pitt, you have any additional information to add.
I think it depends on the style of writing that you're using. For instance, for APA or for ASA, which if you guys aren't aware, that's the American Psychological Association or the American Sociological Association. When you are using a site or a citation where they have quoted somebody else, I know in both of those, sometimes they'll have you put in brackets what the original source was, and then who what the original source was, and then where you're getting the information from. So you'll have both sources in there. But again, you have to paraphrase, or if it's a direct quote, you'll put it in quotations and then explain what you mean.
Great. And also, it's so interesting that we are in a very good era as researchers, right? Or new people who are interested in research. You know, you can get a lot of information about how to do a proper citation or how to do everything when you go online and search for that information, right? There's free information online that you can get and learn how to do the right thing, right? So technology is there. There's a lot of information online. You can, you know, if you just search for it, you can get a lot of information to learn in terms of how to cite. And you can see many examples too.
And if you do get stuck, I know at least myself, I provide editing services for students, whether it's chapter 1 all the way to chapter 5. So if you think you're stuck or you need a certain style, whether it be APA or Chicago School, or I know it's some very different types worldwide that you would need. I just need to know what style that you would need those citations in, and I'm happy to provide those services.
Great. Any other question? As I said, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. We are here for you. We have a few prepared slides, but we want to address your question first. And if we don't finish, maybe another time, we can also meet and have a discussion. And if you have made like a specific question concerning your study, you can also contact us directly, and we'd be happy to address. You can, book for a consultation, and then we'll be happy to address your questions for you. Any question?
Hi, everybody. I saw Rose's hand go up before mine, so I want to be respectful. She can ask, or I can go ahead.
Oh,
Kosti, please do go ahead. I've already asked one question earlier, so I can come after you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Du and Dr. Pitt, for doing this for us.
You're welcome.
I have two questions. So in terms of reaching out to you for consultation, will that come at a fee? That's my first question. And then my second question is a bit more, I'm a graduate student in my 4th year in a PhD program, almost finishing. My worry is how, I don't know, like when you were in grad school, how best were you able to hone your quantitative skills when you're not using it on a daily basis, and yet you know that you're interested in research and in both, methodology. I've been specializing in qualitative classes, and I've taken some quantitative classes, but I've not had practical experience. So just wanted to draw from you some strategies to be able to get that experience before I'm finally done with school.
Okay. So for the sake of, okay, go ahead.
Okay. So as far as fees go, I know both Philip and I have kind of different fee schedules. So what I do with students is the first 30-minute consultation before you sign on with me is free. I do, meet with students just to kind of get an idea of what kind of research they're doing and if I can help them further and so on and so forth. And then I put together a plan. So that's kind of the first part of your question there. The second part is I always let students know, especially ones that are used to either qualitative or they're not familiar with quantitative methods is that you're actually in really good hands. Because when I was in graduate school, if somebody were to tell me that I was going to be doing what I am doing today, I would have laughed at them because I was terrible at stats, right? I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how to run analyses or, you know, what meant what. All I kept doing was wrap my brain around the math stuff, and it was driving me nuts. And I had a really good mentor who broke things down for me. And I kid you not, I actually worked with a student years ago, and she didn't understand a regression analyses. And so I asked her, I said, you know, do you like to cook? And she's like, yeah, I love to cook. I was like, okay, go get your favorite recipe and then bring it to our meeting. She's like, all right. So she brings her favorite recipe, and I used her favorite recipe to explain how a regression model works. So it's really about how you relate the data. And I think that's what makes myself and Philip's services so unique to students, is that we're able to break it down to students, whether you're quantitative or qualitative, so that you understand it at a more layman's terms, and you're not wrapping your head around, oh, this is what I learned in class, or this is what my professor said, because I can understand that can get so confusing and stressful. And you know, I remember as a graduate student just being stressed out. I mean, you're talking to somebody, it took me 9 years to get my PhD. So I completely understand, you know, the stress that you guys are under. And so I always try to take what I understand from my own experiences and apply that in how I work with and teach students.
Thank you, Dr. Pitt. And I think, you know, it's quite similar experience as when I was doing my dissertation, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to a methodology expert to help me. So it's like I'm trying to decide a specific methodology and also read about it so that I'll be able to use it to in a way that I'll be able to collect rich data from participants. So that's why we are there. You know, we will be able to talk to you and so that you help you to think through your study, think about, okay, what problem do you want to address? Who do you want to talk to? What kind of information do you need? So all these questions will help us, and we will have a conversation. It's not like we are dictating to you what to do. We have a very good conversation with you and help you to make informed decisions concerning the research approach that is appropriate for you. Not only that, we will also provide you resources for you to be able to defend your actions or decisions that you're going to make. So that's, you know, also the uniqueness about our service. Our service is not free. So, you know, it's case by case basis when you are, you know, based on the problem that you have. One thing is that when you contact me, I'll provide you what I charge and based on your needs, and then we can meet and have a discussion. If you cannot afford, what option I do to you is I provide you resources for you to be, so that to be helpful to solve your problem. But if you want to have consultation, then, you know, we have to let you pay for that consultation. But as I said, you know, even if you don't have funds for consultation, you can still contact us, and then we can provide you some kind of resources to help you. So we are there to help and then see the problem that you are having and then see how best we can help to solve that. So any question? I think somebody is on the waiting room. I have to let the person in. Trying to. Oh, okay. Okay. Any question?
I have one.
Yes.
I'm still trying to kind of like figure it in my head so I can articulate it well. But anyway, I'll just give it a go, and then if it makes sense, then feel free to provide a response to it. It's around using you know, indigenous methods. You know, when you're doing qualitative. So one of the things that is quite becoming popular in our region is looking at our indigenous ways of, you know, communicating and using that as part of, you know, using it as a way of collecting data. So I just want to, you know, hear from you what your experience is or was, and, you know, looking at using indigenous ways of communication that you can use to collect data?
This is a very interesting topic, and sometimes, it's a really challenge, because you see how most of our education, that I can speak from my personal experience, we have received a Western education and a Western way of collecting data, Western way of analyzing data. And I think that although some of the methodologies under qualitative, the Western way, I see them as tools, right? In a toolbox. You just have to choose the one that you think will help you to collect data. And I like that now other researchers are focusing on indigenous methodology, which I'm not totally familiar with it, but I'm very ready to learn. I see it as tools that can be added to the original tools that we already have, right? So this is the thing that I see that we can incorporate indigenous methodology to the Western methodology. I think that the Western methodology of sometimes thinking about the problem, going to participants, interviewing them, collecting information, having that imbalance power relations. They see you as like coming to solve the problem. You go there, collect information, leave them and analyze, you publish and forget about it. That will be over, right? Now, I think we have to think about a hybrid, where can I use phenomenological approach and add indigenous approach to it, right? By dismantling the power inequality, right, between participants and the researcher, trying to do research that is transformative in nature, involving participants to help identify their own problem, involving them in the data collection, data analysis, and even involving them in the presentation of the findings, giving them opportunity to tell their own stories. And I think that is where I think that the indigenous methodology is moving to, right? So basically, if you are trained in a Western way of methodology, one thing that you can add is that, what can I do? What are the best practices that you could use to equalize the power relation, making sure that participants don't see you as a person who is coming to solve their problem, but see you as a co-researcher, right? Where you think through with them, trying to help them to come up with a problem or come up with a solution to solve their problem, involving them in the research process. I think that is what I can see. And also, after you've analyzed and have your findings, how can we apply that knowledge or in solving their own problem there? How can they use the findings? I think that is the things that, as qualitative researchers, we have to think about. And, as I said, I'm in a learning process, and I'm going to continue to see the indigenous way of, collecting, analyzing, and, helping, doing research that are impactful, not doing research just to contribute to the field, right, of knowledge. I hope, Rose, I've answered your question.
Thank you very much, you did.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Edu, I shared a resource. Funny enough, everything you said, and I just put it in there. We just discussed it in our ethnography class, and we just read this book by Dr. Smith. I put the 2021 citation. It's about the same thing, but I use the 2012 one. And yeah, especially for those of us who are scholars who identify as indigenous, it's a really good book, even though it's more situated in Netherlands. it's a good resource to look at, and she does raise all these pertinent issues. So everything you said was actually what we've been discussing for the past month.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. As I said, it's so interesting because I was even thinking, okay, so before the Western way of collecting and analyzing data, what were our ancestors using to redo research?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting question. And I think that's maybe a study that maybe I have to do. I have to maybe go to Ghana and then interview people. So, because the method of inquiry is the same: identifying a problem, finding out who are affected by the problem, talk to them, talk to them and try to use it to solve the problem that you identify. Or let's say, maybe you understand the problem. What about a solution? Let's bring everybody, talk to them, get all the information that you need and address it, use it. Can we talk to people who are there participating? You know, another thing that we always have to think about it. Sometimes we may assume that we already know indigenous way of doing it, but talk to the people, find out how do they do research. And I think documenting the process will be very, very helpful. That's the thing that, you know, maybe one day I will look into it and do it. I want to document how they do it, right? And I think that would be really helpful. Right?
Yeah,
so
that's a very great angle, because we all had to submit a reflection to our professor, and those were the issues I raised. I didn't see how Linda's book is transferable to our African context, you know, the economics and the politics of research, you know, because going against the Western flow comes at a cost as scholars. So I think the angle you also want to take it, I don't think we did talk through that, which I feel is very interesting, to also look at the indigenous approach to data collection and analyzing. I think that would be exciting, and that could really translate into our own research process.
And I also think that people might think that, oh, that, you know, that information maybe is lost in history because people now everybody is looking at, you know, maybe doing the Western way. But I think that even looking at existing history about maybe a specific country or a specific community, and looking at how they even go about doing their investigation and trying to solve problems. You can even take that information and try to come up with indigenous way. So that's very interesting. Maybe one day we will have a discussion concerning this. Maybe that would be very interesting to do that. So any other question? Cassady, do you have anything to? I think two people have raised.
Yeah, there's one here from Lynn Williams. My dissertation topic is on LinkedIn for digital immigrant job seekers. And I never heard of netography.
Ethnography.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
New word to me. Thank you. Any particular resources you would recommend for it? If not anything in particular. If not anything particular, no worries.
Yeah, so there are a lot of resources. I don't have them here now, but if you email me, I can send them to you. There are a lot of articles that talks about ethnography, and I think that will be very helpful for you to know the principles and the methodology, and that will be some of the best practices. So if you can email me, I can send you some of the resources that I have. Any question? You're welcome, Lynn. Any question?
Omar has his hands up. I don't know if you can see, but Omar has his hands up.
Raise my hand.
Omar, do you have a question? Yes.
No, it wasn't a question. I was just really trying to, but to say, first of all, thank you very much for really, organizing this session to our benefit. I just wanted to add my voice to that discussion on indigenous method or decolonizing research methodologies in general. The way I'm thinking about it already, even though Smith's books definitely speaks to a different context, but I think it probably has sparked a lot of conversation in other enslaved communities or in in other part of the world that have gone through similar experiences like indigenous people. And I'm thinking about certain Asian country. I'm thinking about also, the African continent, and we definitely talk about, and for a long time when I was exposed to critical research and critical scholars, and I mean, I read Fanon, I read Sheikh Anta Diop, I read Teofilo Benga, I read Du Bois and others, but until certain critical reading, I really haven't seen them as critical researchers, and they were literally doing some of these things. They were, they were being critical about, they were resisting the grand narrative. They were, they were resisting in the distortion of history, and some of the work that Sheikh Anta Diop did can probably help us, pointing us particularly on ancient Egypt and Nubia, and others can probably point us to maybe ways, for example, oral traditions. We know that in our communities, particularly in traditional African society, the way we create knowledge or transmit knowledge has been through oral traditions over the years. And historians have for long, at least, has been accepted as a proper way of data collections in our society, which is akin to, I mean, interview is oral, you ask questions, but definitely the depository of knowledge or savoir, reservoir in our communities of for long being, people who have that some form of knowledge that they pass down from one generation to another. But the point I'm trying to make here is this question has also been definitely bugging me for quite some time since I started, notion interest in research methodologies, like what were, for example, pre-colonial Africa, for example. And we've read so many. There's no question, there's no doubt about it. There's no more pretty much an argument in terms of the amount of knowledge, for example, that Kemet or ancient Egypt has provided to the world in general. So I'm just curious, really, too. I don't know how this is going to be done, but my reading haven't pointed a lot toward that direction. But I think the work that scholars that have kind of challenged the Western narrative in terms of what Africa has brought to the world civilization, what they've written, can probably point us toward that, toward trying to find out ways our ancestors, where our people before colonization, ways they talk about knowledge, what constitute knowledge, ways they build their understanding of societal issues, and way they talk about these things. And because research is, for me, it's all about knowledge creations and to certain extent. But how did we go about it? Do we have anything that point toward that? And that's where, for example, the indigenous research agenda that Dr. Smith talked about in her books, really, I think, would be relevant in other communities. But context has to be definitely, context matters in a lot of ways. But research projects like that are very, very bold and ambitious, because it allows enslaved communities to decide how research should be done, to also have their own strategic directions as to what is worthy of being researched, and what matters to us, and how would we like to be researched in general. So that's what I wanted to add, and to the conversation.
Yeah, Omar, thank you for your input. It looks like you have a lot of things that you want to do. And I think that I always tell students that, you have to start small, right? Because of time and resources, you cannot focus on everything. So let's say, do you have come up with a specific problem that you want to solve? One problem is maybe there's limited information about the West and non-Western way of engaging in inquiry process. You can even choose a specific time or a specific era, like maybe the time, a specific era, and then you can think about, okay, what kind of data do I need to help me to address this problem, right? So sometimes you may have to speak to historians to get, or experts in that area to get more information about, okay, and I'll think about what kind of questions should I ask those historians? And then you also have to think about, okay, what kind of documents that are existing that I can review, right, to help me to address the question that I have. So I think that's going to be a very big research, but I think thinking small and trying to focus on maybe one aspect of the problem, and then think about maybe a location, and think about who should I talk to, or what kind of document should I use to help me to address the problem. That would be great. And I think that, I know it's a big ambition, but I think, starting small and doing it your own small way, I think that would be great. You choose a specific country and then see how they do their research, right? In ancient time, how do they do it? And then you'll be able to get a lot of information from there. And then you start from there, and then somebody might even continue. And I also thinking about, can we also use technology to help us to accelerate the research process? What if there is a system where, a lot of people like you can just take a little part of the issue and do research, and then publish maybe the data online so that everybody can get access to that data, and then people can even reanalyze that information and then use it to spread knowledge. I think we can also think about using technology to do that, so that this kind of approach will be popular. Not to replace, there's another thing too. Those people who are advocating for indigenous methodology, they are not advocating to replace the Western way of methodology. They just want to add it to the Western way so that you have a variety of choice when you are doing research, right? Not only focusing on restricted to only one way of doing research. And I think that, we have to, make the emphasis on this. Our time is getting close. Any kind of question that you have before we end? Dr. Pitt, do you have anything to talk about or add?
I don't have anything to talk about or add, but I see a webinar in our future, Dr. Adu, on Indigenous methodologies.
Yes, and that's the good about this discussion, because it gives you a lot of things that people want to know and have more, discussion about it. So that's why I love about like open, not focus on a specific topic, but having conversation with students and also faculty to get a lot of information. So I think that's going to be another topic. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only indigenous groups I've come across of it in my travels in South Africa. So
oh yes,
we've talked about the shanty towns before. We've had conversations about that, but I do know that there's a lot of research that happens over there. So I don't know, maybe that's a trip in the future.
Yes, that would be great.
Or even to Nigeria.
Yeah, maybe Nigeria, you can go there too. And maybe after Nigeria, we go to Ghana too.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So
or you can come to the Pacific.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome too. I think we can have like kind of research community. Before we go, I think we have to talk about this. I really like the idea. My goal in life is to help people to get that kind of research mindset. Not only like doing a traditional research, right, the official research, but having a mindset of like, you are curious, you ask a lot of questions, right? And then you are very honest, right? You are transparent, especially when you want to collect data from participants. You want the participant to know your intentions. And if you are open to participants, you know what happened? They also open up and then, trust you. And I also think about empathy. Always have to think about, you have to care for your participant. You have to care for people. Why are you doing this research? Are you doing this research just to finish your course or your program and end? Or are you doing this research to help humanity, right? And also in the research process, you have to be very flexible, right? Because things that you plan may not go in accordance to what you propose, right? And also I have to also engage in self-reflection, always thinking about what is my role in this, especially in qualitative study, because you are linked to the study, you are an instrument. There's higher probability that your background, your previous understanding, your biases can influence the information that you are collecting and analyzing and presenting. So always have to think about yourself. Okay, so what is my role here? Am I interpreting it based on my previous understanding, or am I interpreting the data based on what participant presented to me? So these are the things that you have to think about to have that kind of research mindset. And this is why I have also set up my organization or the center to help people to develop that kind of mindset that will help them in doing research. Dr. Pitt, do you have anything to add to what I said?
I do not. I was answering questions on the chat for our contact information. There was a question, how do we kindly go over how do we contact you? And I put my contact information, and I just put in your email address there, Dr. Dew. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else. I know you're still working on your website, but as I mentioned earlier, Dr. Dew is also on my website as well. How do we join WhatsApp? I'm going to put in my phone number here for the WhatsApp, and so you can just contact me directly on WhatsApp.
Yes, for me, if you can email me, I think that's the best way of getting me. I'll be happy to address your question. And also you can follow us, right? LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe Facebook too, YouTube. We have videos on YouTube that you can follow. I think that will be helpful for you. So these are my, my book that was published in 2019 to help students to learn how to analyze their data. And the second one, which was, just published, is about, phenomenology, getting a foundational knowledge of phenomenology and using it to do very good research if you are plan to use a phenomenological approach. So this is what we have for you for today. We don't want to take a lot of your time. Any other question before we end? And this is being recorded, so we will try and send you the recording if you ask for it, and we'll always send it to everybody. Let me know whether you have any question, and we'll be happy to address for you before we end. If not, we thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. I know you will learn a lot from this this discussion. I also learned a lot from you. We might also have a similar one. We will see based on our availability. But if you need us, we are there to help. You can book for consultation with us, and we are able to address all the questions that you have. Dr. Pitt,
I also say thank you. I know a lot of you are chiming in here from a various different time zones. Some of you might even be 3 o'clock in the morning where you are, 4 o'clock, and we just thank you for joining us this evening here. It's probably very early morning hours where you're at. So we hope that our information was extremely helpful to you, and we hope that you would join us on additional webinars.
Okay, so thank you so much, and bye for now. Bye.